My name is David Knoll. I'm 65 years old, and one of my favorite hobbies is making homemade wine. I'm at the stage now where what I would like to do is to teach other people how to make homemade wines as well as what I'm doing. I would like to take them from a stage where people say, well, I just want to be able to make wine, to the place where they're not satisfied just making homemade wine. They have as their goal to make a wine that people are just crazy about, that when they serve it, people just turn their head and go, are you kidding me? That was incredible. Where can I buy that? That would be my goal, to be able to give the information that I've learned, kind of cut through, many of the mistakes that I made, and pass on to people quickly. Here's how you can make table wines at home of superior quality that will rival any commercial wine that you can buy. And you can do it for like $2 or $3 a bottle. That's a goal. The fun of being able to put together a website where people can come and get solid, credible information that's understandable, that's not too complicated. I'd like to be able to create videos where people can actually follow step by step and say, I can do that. That's doable right there. And to be able to sort of steer people away from the mistakes that I have made and steer them toward good quality products to use and good ingredients to use, and then how to do the minimal amount of chemistry that it takes to make a really good wine. I would like to help them walk them through that process so that they turn out in their very first attempt with a wine that they can be really proud of. That's my goal with this website. I have an example of a friend of mine who came to me last year. He says, well, I make wine too. And he invited me up to his house. We crawled under his house where he has kind of a wine cellar. And he pulled out plum wine to a berry wine to a Concord grape wine and several others that were mixes. And he puts them on the shelf in the garage and starts to open them one by one and pour them out into a glass. And every single glass that he poured, my face must have shown how bad they were. They were just awful. They were what I think most people think of when they think of homemade wines. They're almost not drinkable. There's alcohol in them, and you can barely stand to drink them. And every time I would say, are you serious? This is horrible. And he would say, really? Do you really think it's horrible? And I would say, this is awful. And he'd say, I want to make wine like you make. Can you teach me? And I said, yeah. Let's start with a couple of wines, and let's take your skills to the point where you can create a wine that you'll be proud of. So we started, we both bought Riesling grapes together the first year, and we bought Cabernet Sauvignon grapes at the same place at the same time. In fact, he picked them up and he delivered my share to me in both cases. And by walking him through the process that year and kind of tutoring him, he reports to me that everybody that tries it says, I got to have a bottle of that. He's really turned a corner in the way that he looks at producing wines. And so I would consider that, my first success in teaching somebody the way I make wine. And I think what inspired me to start making homemade wine is my father was a winemaker. And this is way back in the 70s. My father made a raspberry wine that was phenomenal. And it was in the refrigerator all the time. And we as kids would drink it. And a local lady who had a raspberry patch drank this wine, and she was blown away. She said, oh gosh, that is so good. I got to have the recipe. So my dad gave her the recipe, and she ended up creating Pioneer Homestead Winery, which was, I believe, the 7th oldest winery in the state of Oregon. This is back in the 70s. And she used raspberry wine as her her anchor for her entire wine line. And later on, my dad came to live with us in the last years of his life, and he talked a lot about wine with me, and I guess he just reinvigorated me to want to, actually make wine again. And I definitely started with the raspberry.